Hello everyone, Niklsun here, and welcome to Coming Soon Movie News with Niklsun. I'm your host, and on this show, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we'll be going over all of the day's movie news and going over what it means for the production in general, such as casting decisions, trailer announcements, director announcements, things like that. So, without any further ado, let's get started with today's Hot Topics. And the first topic that we have to talk about doesn't really have a lot of information, but allows us to really speculate. Legendary Pictures has come out and announced a June 8th, 2018 release date for Godzilla 2. Now, I need to start all this off with, I called it. If you guys remember my Comic-Con video of the announcement of Godzilla 2, the official announcement, people were speculating, oh, maybe 2017, whatever year it could be. And because of his duties, director Gareth Edwards is signed on to do the first Star Wars spin-off film, which is scheduled to be released in December 2018. He will most likely have already started on pre-production of Godzilla 2, which means that he will be filming in 2017 and releasing in 2018. So, I mean, a couple of the really kind of ambitious aspects of this are really cool. Legendary Pictures is really starting to set up their filmography. So, as a namesake almost, like they are legendary films. I mean, we just had Pacific Rim come out, which was a great action adventure with great sci-fi and fantasy involved in it as well. It wasn't a quality script, but it brought out that inner child, which is what movies like that need to do. And so, in 2016, we have the previously announced Skull Island, which is going to be a King Kong prequel coming out in November of 2016. Then, in 2017, we have Pacific Rim 2, which is the much anticipated sequel to the film I was just talking about. I am very excited for that. Guillermo del Toro getting to play around in his playground again, obviously, that's cinema gold. I cannot wait for that film. But then, next year, in 2018, we have Godzilla 2. So every year we're going to have a sort of giant monster film, which I'm very excited about. They're going to very much contrast all the superhero films that we're going to be getting, because we're going to be getting a lot of those. We're now in the era of established properties. We're no longer just in the sequels and reboot section. We are in only dealing with established properties, whether or not it be a best-selling book on the New York Times bestseller list, or it being a television series which they're going to be bringing to the theater, or if it's going to be a sequel to a hit movie, or even a sequel to a movie that came out decades ago. That's really all that we're seeing, which is really a shame, because we don't necessarily need the $200 million films. I mean, they are great, they're very entertaining, they're great escapism, but they are taking away from the fundamentally creative aspects of certain directors and certain writers out there who have really great ideas and stories, but studios are just unwilling to take the risk with that, because they've seen in the past movies they take a risk on, again, inflating the budget or getting actors, talking to you, Transcendence, getting actors that require almost half of the production budget just to go to them. So, I mean, we don't need a movie like Transcendence could have been made for $50–60 million, but no, it was a $125 million movie, and it doesn't show because most of it went to the actors, and that to me is absolutely ridiculous. If a script comes out that has great properties, great character development, great storyline, is a complete story, does not necessarily open up to a sequel, although movies are able to do that while still telling a contained story, you get actors involved in these projects that will waive their fee because they want to do this film. You see that at Sundance all the time. But those movies they show up at Sundance, and the very few of those movies get not even necessarily a wider release. They just get a release that's large enough for people to take notice to. And it really is a shame, because we're going to start to feel like we're just getting the same things over and over and over again, where studios are only willing to look at certain properties. But Godzilla 2, I think, has a way of really taking a new look at an established property. And there's a couple of reasons why. A couple of them have already been announced, by the way. The first one is director Gareth Edwards coming back on. I mean, the guy who did Monsters. If you haven't checked out Monsters yet, that's a great film. The title's a little bit misleading because you don't really see them until the end, but it's a great character movie. And it's a great atmosphere, great mood. Just overall, he did a really good job with that film. And he kind of brought that sensibility to Godzilla, where you don't really see the monsters all that much until the end of the movie. I have a very high likelihood, or a very good feeling, I should say, and I have nothing to base this on, but I have a very good feeling that we're not going to get that aspect in Godzilla 2. I think the whole purpose of the movie was setting up the reveal of this creature and really trying to allow the human aspect to take over and be the forefront of the story, which unfortunately didn't work because the human characters were not built up enough. The only two that were oh, why am I drawing a blank on his name? Ken Watanabe. He was definitely one of the standouts, and obviously Bryan Cranston, although Bryan Cranston unfortunately just wasn't in it enough. But on top of Gareth Edwards coming back as director, we have Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah coming in to the sequel. Now, the one aspect of this that I want to be cautious about, I hope that all three of these are not a one and done creature. These are pretty much the three biggest creatures that Godzilla has ever had to face in his entire pantheon of characters. So my hope is that one of them is set up to come back into a sequel, and I hope that they do that, because if they use up all three of these characters and they're thrown by the wayside, we're going to get another Spider-Man 3 or Amazing Spider-Man 2. Kind of sucks that both of those properties have really bad handling of their villains, but where they are underutilized, they are there just to sell toys and memorabilia, and don't really do anything for the story. But anyway, when we get more information about this topic, which I hope we're going to get some more information on this soon, because Godzilla 2 is definitely a topic that I think a lot of people want to hear about. We're going to get more information about this on here. And the next topic I want to talk about is we're starting to get a little bit more movement on Bad Boys 3. Now, I still remember there was an interview that was done, I believe it was Will Smith, way back right after Bad Boys 2 came out. And they were talking about the prospects of Bad Boys 3, and they said, listen, you know, it's been, what was it, 8 years? I think it was 94, 95. I think it was 95 and then 2003. So it was 8 years between the first and second one. He said, listen, the amount of time it took for us to get a sequel, I mean, expect Bad Boys 3 to be sometime in 2011. Well, 2011 came and went, and it was just kind of a throwaway line, but the fact that we still haven't gotten a Bad Boys 3 is very curious, because both of those movies are very financially successful. But Martin Lawrence, who was one of the co-stars of the first two films, was just on Conan the other day, and he was asked actually about Bad Boys 3. And he said, actually, you know what? I was just speaking to Jerry Bruckheimer yesterday, and he said that you know, they're really working on the script. It is a real thing. They are actually developing it. They're getting close to a finished script, and if they are to get to that, then they're going to move forward with it. At least that's the hope. And I know that in the past, Michael Bay has expressed interest in this property. And with him now not coming back to do Transformers 5, or at least that's the word that's out there, that he's not keen on coming back, I kind of hope that's the case. You can see that he's getting tired in this universe that they've set up of Transformers. He really doesn't have the gear anymore to go ahead with it, to try to create something new and inventive. He really needs to step aside. So Michael Bay's actually doing a documentary on, I believe it's elephant poaching, and that's really going to try to cleanse his slate, or cleanse his palate, if you were. But he could want to return. I know that he has expressed interest in wanting to come back to it. The biggest question mark as to whether or not this movie is actually going to happen is Will Smith. And Will Smith kind of has an air of douchebag around him. Because, I mean, the guy, it's almost like he doesn't realize that he's only had one hit movie in the last 8 years. And that was Men in Black 3. Every other project that he's tried to bring to the forefront, or at least tried to do, has resulted in failure. And I don't think it's just because of him. I think he's just not picking the right roles. He doesn't want to be what happened with, you know, like Vin Diesel and all those guys who just returned to the movies that made them successful. And I mean, here's just a couple of properties that he has refused to be a part of or dropped out of after being involved. There's Independence Day 2, which is coming out in 2016. He said that he's not going to be part of that. The most famous one is Django Unchained, where he came back and he said that, listen, Django's not the lead character. I need to be the lead. I need to be the one to kill the bad guy. And yeah, he wanted Quentin Tarantino to do all these rewrites on the movie to expand the Django character and make him more make him more of the central character as opposed to it being a co-lead movie. I mean, Christoph Waltz and Jamie Foxx are both the leads in that film, even though the title suggests that it is Django's movie. But he also just recently dropped out of Brilliance, which that was a surprising move because that movie actually kind of sounds interesting if it's handled the right way. And one of the biggest ones of all was back in 1999, or actually I think it would have been 1998 when they were actually doing the movie. He turned down the role of Neo in The Matrix. I mean, this guy does not have the greatest track record of choosing his projects. Outside, obviously, I mean, his agent has handed him all of these films that he's been a part of that he led, and that was back when star power was what could draw people to a movie. That's no longer the case. We no longer live in that age anymore. I'm pretty sure that the only way that they're going to get Will Smith back, at least if he continues on this trend, because he has become a real douche. I mean, there's no real other way to say it. He's an idiot. He is an absolute idiot when it comes to choosing his projects. I mean, if he is going to take more of a producing role on films and shy away from acting and not really dealing with that, then announce his retirement. But don't think that you are still the same person that you used to be, because he's not. Like, Will Smith is not at all what he used to be. He thinks that he is king of Hollywood, and he is not. You want to talk to king of Hollywood right now, at this point, at this time? You go talk to Robert Downey Jr. There's nobody else right now in Hollywood that has more credentials than that guy. That guy, if he wants something made, he will get it made, no matter what. And that's what Will Smith used to be. And he needs to basically take a big look in the mirror and see what has caused all of the projects that he's been a part of to fail, outside of After Earth, which was just a colossal nightmare from start to finish. But I guarantee that if they write a role for Jaden in Bad Boys 3, you're going to guarantee the next day you're going to hear Will Smith has signed on. Because there was a rumor going around about Men in Black 4. After Men in Black 3 came out and was a big hit, they wanted to continue on with the series. And there was a big rumor that went around that said Will Smith would only do the film if they allowed Jaden to be a part of it. They wrote a role for him, and they said no. So that's why we're not getting a Men in Black 4, at least right now. So he really needs to take a good look in the mirror and see exactly what he wants to do with his career, because a lot of his fans out there are waiting for a return. Because we all love the Fresh Prince. We all want to see him back on the big screen because he has such good charisma. He's a great action star. He's very funny. He's great in dramatic roles. I mean, he's a world-class actor, but he needs to return to that. He needs to choose the roles that are going to challenge him and potentially get him other roles, which is what doing a Bad Boys 3 would do. If it's a commercial success, then that's going to open his doors up a little bit more, because not a lot of people want to work with him right now. I mean, you attach Will Smith's name to a movie, yeah, you're going to get more box office draw, but the directors themselves are going to be weary about working with this guy because of all of the history that's happened with him and with who he inherently is. I mean, there was that whole Scientology thing where that was debunked. He's not a part of Scientology, although it really seemed like he was for a while. It seemed like he was really pushing that thread. But yeah, I mean, Bad Boys 3, absolutely. Give me Bad Boys 3. Bad Boys 2 is one of my favorite action films of all time. That movie is so over the top, but it is so much fun. And the one-liners between them, like, what was his name? Shelton. Ron Shelton? Rick Shelton? I can't remember the name of the movie, or the name of the guy who wrote the film. But oh my God, did he do a good job of just writing in these great one-liners between these two guys, and a lot of interesting scenarios. I mean, a lot of people said that the movie was homophobic and all this, but I personally didn't feel that way, because looking at the humor in the movie, it was not, some of it was derogatory, but a lot of it was meant to be humor. It was not meant to offend people. And I know some people just really get, a stick up their ass and really take things seriously, and that really needs to stop. Because at the end of the day, these are movies. They're movies. They're not real. They are not documentaries. If this was a documentary and they were acting like this, absolutely, go after them. Go attack them, because that's their personal views. But when you're writing a movie and you're writing about these characters and who these characters actually are, these are the things that they are going to talk about. When you get Mike Lowry and you get Marcus Burnett in a room together, these guys are inherently going to be very derogatory. That's the characters that they are. That was what's set up in the first film. So when they come out and say, oh, these guys are stupid, they're homophobic. No, they're not. Those are the characters. They're not the actors, it's not the writing, it's not the film, it's the characters themselves that were set up in the first one, and they did evolve throughout the second one. Minorly, it was more about the action sequences, which were way over the top, but unbelievable. That car chase was insane. Throwing the cars flipping up in the air, cars driving under those cars. It was just crazy. So much fun. If they can bring that back to the third one, then they definitely would have a hit on their hands. But we need to hear from Michael Bay. We need to hear from Will Smith. You know, we need to hear from these guys about whether or not they are actually interested in this property, because I hope that they are. I really do, because this movie could become a massive box office success and reinvigorate Will Smith's career and get him back to the forefront, because I think a lot of us do want to see him, but he needs to stop being such a douchebag about it and actually pick roles, not because he's going to be on screen the most. Pick a role that's good. Pick a role that's decent. You know, that's got a lot of depth to it. You don't need to be the lead, Will. You don't. You have a bajillion dollars. You do not need the money. Choose roles because they're fun. Choose roles because you're going to have a good time. And choose roles that are possibly going to challenge you. Don't choose them for the money. If they can't pay you, look at the script. Look at certain aspects of that movie that could potentially highlight your career in a better way and get you even more properties and more projects that you can work on. That's the way that you should be looking at it. But unfortunately, he's not. But if we get more information about Bad Boys 3 on here, I will definitely update you guys on here. All right, the next topic that we have to talk about is one that I'm very curious about because I grew up with these guys. Lionsgate and Saban, who are the two co-producing companies that are dealing with this property, have just announced a July 22nd, 2016 release date for the upcoming Mighty Morphin Power Rangers reboot. And I am actually getting very excited about this property, and there's a couple of reasons why. The first one that really kind of tipped the hat, or tipped the scale in its favor, was this release date. Because, and listen to this, this is July 2016 right now. On July 1st, you have Independence Day 2. Then you have Tarzan, which is poised to be a very big film. That's David Yates' next film, the guy who did the last 4 Harry Potter movies. Then you have the feature film adaptation of Angry Birds. Yes, they're doing an Angry Birds movie. It's coming out in 2016. And then you have Steven Spielberg's The BFG. So, I mean, I don't know if Spielberg's movie is going to be that big. Angry Birds is probably going to draw a lot of kids. Tarzan and Independence Day 2, one of those may change their release date, but I'm actually pretty certain that Independence Day 2 will probably change its release date because Tarzan right now is filming. Like they're already shooting the movie. So right there though, on that one weekend, you got a powerhouse release. Then the week after that, you have Marvel's Doctor Strange. At least we assume it's Doctor Strange. We know it's a Marvel unannounced movie that's coming out then. Doctor Strange so far is the furthest in development. It just makes sense that it would be Doctor Strange. And that's going to be a powerhouse of a film because it's not only going to be coming off of Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers 2, hopefully Ant-Man's a hit, but also Captain America 3, which is going to be a powerhouse. I mean, people are going to go and want to check this movie out. The week after that, we have Ice Age 5, or whatever they're going to call it, but the continuation of the Ice Age franchise, and also The Bourne Legacy 2. Now, that movie has potential to be a massive hit for a couple of reasons. One, Justin Lin is directing it, the man who's brought us Fast and Furious 3, 4, 5, and 6. Those movies have some pretty cool action sequences in it, and him coming on board The Bourne Legacy 2 is definitely going to make that a much more entertaining film. Add on top of that, the potential for Matt Damon to return, which is one of the reasons, as was stated, that they actually moved the release date. The producer came out and said that, no, we'd have to start shooting now, which we're not ready for, so they had to bump the release date. I don't know if I would buy that just because of how quickly he came out to defend the Matt Damon casting rumor. So I have a feeling that that's going to be happening. Then the week after that, we're getting Power Rangers, but it's also opening against Guy Ritchie's version of King Arthur, which that could be a really cool take. Again, we haven't seen anything from these movies yet, so we don't know which ones are going to be hits. We can just take guesses based on the people involved and the type of property that it is. But also, opening up on July 29th, so the week after Power Rangers, is Planet of the Apes 3. Coming off of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, that movie's going to be a powerhouse. So right now, ones that we can guarantee that are going to be smash hits. Doctor Strange, Bourne Legacy 2, Planet of the Apes 3. Those are 3 movies right there that we know are going to be smash hits. And you know what Lionsgate did? They put Power Rangers right in between them. You only do that when you have a lot of confidence in a property, and a property that could stand out against these. And I don't think they're going for family-friendly entertainment, because we already have at least two, if not three, because Spielberg's The BFG is going to be a kids-related film as well. So in July, we already have 3 kids movies. They're not going to try to cram a 4th one in 1 month. They would move that to August if this is going to be a kids film. From my understanding of the property, it's going to be more in line with a teenager or a young adult. That's the target audience that they're going to be going for. When you have Roberto Orci, the producer of such movies as Star Trek, Transformers, on TV he's produced Lost, he's produced Fringe, he's now producing Sleepy Hollow. You know, this guy knows entertaining. He knows entertainment. He knows supernatural. He knows all these aspects very well and knows how to bring them to the screen in a bombastic way. Power Rangers is also being written by Zach Stentz and Ashley Miller. Those are the co-writers of such movies as X-Men First Class and Thor. So right there, you've got a great team of screenwriters writing this movie, which is said to be in continuity with the other show. We don't know what. He said he won't go into detail as to what continuity, but it will be in continuity with the show. So right there, you've got 2 great writers that know how to write a good screenplay with great characters, great set pieces, and an overarching story. Then you also have Roberto Orci, who is going to be producing this and also came up with the idea for the movie, who has great ideas, who is currently going to be working on Star Trek 3 as a director. I mean, you don't get people like this involved in a property, put it smack dab in the middle of the summer when it's got so many other properties around it that could destroy it, unless you have the confidence that it could be good or great in this case. I'm very confident in this property so far because of everything that I've been hearing about it. We haven't even seen anything. We don't know who's going to be in it. We don't know the director. But just based on who's producing it and the guys they got to write it, this movie could be quite entertaining and quite action-packed. I'm actually very much looking forward to this because of this information. But if we get more information about this property, I'll definitely update you guys on here. All right, and the last topic that we have to talk about today is I'm actually bringing back user questions. It's been a while since I've actually got some questions on the show, but I got a great question, which had me actually think about it too, why we haven't gotten this. But there's a lot of reasons as to why. So the question comes to us from Jason Mercier, and the question was, will we get an A-Team 2? So for those of you who don't remember, A-Team was a TV show back in the 80s that was remade back in 2010, starring Liam Neeson, Bradley Cooper, Shartlow Copley, and Rampage Jackson. It was made by Joe Carnahan, and all these things coming together, the movie looked fun, it looked action-packed. The problem is that it opened up against Karate Kid. So the movie didn't do very well in theaters. It opened up against Karate Kid, which was a colossal hit, made $400 and some million plus or minus worldwide. But A-Team, I don't think we're going to get one, because here's a couple of just facts. This isn't because of the storyline or anything. This is just facts. The movie cost $110 million to make. That was just its production budget. That's not including P&A. So that's print and advertising. That's all the marketing and all that stuff that comes along with it. It made $177 million worldwide. When you take into consideration, and this is just taking in what the theaters would actually take in from the film, which is about 20 to 25%. And then factoring in the additional deals that Liam Neeson and Bradley Cooper would have had on the film, which would have been about 2 to 3% of the overall gross of the film, which they wouldn't have really got because the movie didn't make back its money. But with everything, the film needed to make at least $175 million just to break even. And worldwide, it made $177 million. So even if we don't have all the details and we don't know exactly what back-end deals there were for the film, it just broke even. So it more than likely lost money. It's unfortunate because the movie looked really fun. The trailers made it seem a little bit more dumb than it actually was, because when the reviews came out, the reviews were kind of harsh at first. And then after about 3 weeks or so, people started to come out and say, listen, I don't know what all the hoopla is about. I don't know why people are bashing on this film so much, because it is really entertaining. It's fun. You know, it's got over-the-top action, which is what a property like this needs. Again, I don't think they needed to go as big. They didn't need the property. I mean, $110 million is modest for the size of film that it was. You would think that looking at that movie would have been 140, maybe 145, but no, 110. If this movie was made for 80, we'd be singing a different story. I'm pretty sure there would already be a sequel in development. But on top of all this stuff, Bradley Cooper was not as big of a star as he is now back in 2010. Remember, he's now got 2 Academy Award nominations under his belt. And, I mean, with all this stuff coming into play, I don't see it happening. I don't see the studio taking a chance on doing this one. I see them doing another reboot, and I could see them doing a reboot probably in about 5 to 10 years. More likely 10 years. They've got other properties that they're trying to deal with right now. And yeah, it's overall just a very fun film. I had a lot of fun with it. I really like Sharlto Copley as I'm completely forgetting his name now. I can see it. I can see his name. You had Face. You had oh my God, I can't even remember what his name was. Oh, my bad. But yeah, I mean, Sharlto Copley is the character that he played. He was great. He was manic. I just loved how when he was stitching up the guy's arm, he stitched it into a lightning bolt. I mean, he was just kind of crazy and kooky, and Sharlto Copley played that perfectly. And I mean, the camaraderie between all the guys I thought was really great. But yeah, I mean, look for a remake in about a decade. I highly doubt we're going to see a sequel. Not to mention Joe Carnahan's new movie that's coming out. I believe it's called Stretch. I may be incorrect on that. But that movie has been delayed indefinitely. It was scheduled to come out back in April, I think. April or May. I think it was actually April. And about 2 months before the movie was going to come out, they pulled the cord on it. And they weren't releasing it. Now, it's kind of up in the air as to whether or not it is going to be released theatrically or if it's just going to be dumped on home video and on demand. But that doesn't bode well for a director like him. He does not have the credibility to go to a studio and say, listen, I'm going to come back and I'm going to do this property for you. And the only reason I'm going to sign on is because you guys are going to greenlight this. He doesn't have that clout in Hollywood, which is unfortunate. But if we do get an announcement of a sequel or a remake, which I would much rather see a sequel because I think the camaraderie between these guys is a lot better than we originally thought. But if we get any more information about this topic one way or another, I will update you guys on here. Well, that'll do it for us here on Coming Soon Movie News with Niklsun. Thank you so much for watching. You guys have been a great audience. Don't forget to click subscribe there on the bottom corner. You can get updates whenever we post a new video. You can find me on Twitter at Niklsun, Niklsun, for all of your movie updates. And you can find me on my Facebook page at facebook.com/Movie News with Niklsun, where you guys can start a discussion and talk about anything involving movies. So, until next time, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.